We'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting of the Berkeley County Board of Education, Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. I call the meeting to order. I declare that a quorum is present and that the media has been notified. Do I have a motion and a second for the approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Obey. Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. We have a motion to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Tonight's agenda has been approved. Moving on to agenda item 3, we invite all in the audience to join us in the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 4. If you'll recall, at our last meeting, we had some difficulties with the computer server. So tonight, unless I hear an objection from a member of the board, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of both the minutes of the regular meeting of August 12th, as well as the regular meeting of August 26th. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of both of these regular meetings?
You do, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting August 12th, 2014, and the regular meeting August 26th, 2014.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Etheridge has made a motion to approve the minutes of both the regular meeting of August 12th and August 26th. That motion was seconded by Mr. Cooper. All those in favor of approving the minutes and approving the motion made by Dr. Etheridge, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Both the minutes carry unanimously. The minutes of the regular meeting of both August 12th and August 26th have been approved. We'll now move to tonight's citizens' comments, agenda item number 5. The first speaker tonight is Terry Hardesty. As Mr. Hardesty approaches the microphone, I'll read the citizen comment procedures. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding an employee or student other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Finally, the board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to these guidelines. First up tonight is Mr. Terry Hardesty of Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and he would like to discuss the subject of attorney fees. Mr. Cooper, if you would start the time on Mr. Hardesty. Thank you.
Chairman Murray, members of the board, Superintendent Thompson. At last meeting, Superintendent Thompson came up here and gave a little synopsis of attorney fees and included $670,000 in attorney's fees for bond counsel. And if I'm not mistaken, those fees were spread over more than 1 year, 2 or 3, I'm thinking, looking at some of the financial reporting. But if I look at the Post and Courier's spreadsheet on attorney's fees that they did for the FOIA for the entire state, for fiscal 2013, Berkeley had $320,000 in attorney's fees, and it jumped to $998,000 in the following fiscal year. That's a difference of $677,000. And if that's primarily bond fees for the $100 million bond, you're paying exorbitant bond fees. Now, I've talked to financial advisors that advise municipals for issuing bonds, and $100 million worth of bonds ought to be a couple $100,000 in attorney's fees. Give or take. It could be more, it could be less. But it appears to be very high. In addition to that, the superintendent also talked about $235,000 in fees that they spent on the bowling track before they had approval for zoning. So, you look at bond fees and you look at attorney's fees for land, and you add that to the $235,000 that we may have wasted on the bowling track. Pretty soon a couple $100,000 here and a couple $100,000 there, you run into a couple dollars. I mean, it could be several teachers. So I think it's an issue for the board to look at, how much you're paying for bond attorney fees. And then today, I read in the Post and Courier, it appeared to me that the superintendent was kind of minimizing what you're paying on attorney's fees for criminal attorneys in the investigation against school district employees. And I learned in the Post and Courier today that figure is now $230,000. So with the news today that there has now been a felony indictment against one of the members, I submit to this board that you can no longer sit there and say this is a matter of good faith, because a felony forgery act is not an act of good faith. With that, I implore you to stop paying attorney's fees for criminal conduct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardesty, for your comments. Next up is Miss Lily Hanley. Please forgive me if I've mispronounced your name. Miss Hanley? I'd like to pronounce your name correctly. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Lily Hanley, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. You would like to discuss the subject of reciting the Pledge of Allegiance at Goose Creek High School.
Yes.
All right, welcome.
And I'm going to read from my sheet because I tend to get nervous and jump all over. I like how we opened the board with the prayer and pledge. My name is Lily Hanley. My husband Keith is in the Navy, currently stationed at Goose Creek Weapons Station. This is the first year our daughters are going to Goose Creek High School. We are here today because we are concerned that the Goose Creek is in violation to South Carolina Code 59-1-455, time of Pledge of Allegiance required. And I have a printout of that if you wish to see it. On the second day of school, our kids noticed that Goose Creek High School did not say the Pledge of Allegiance. I told them that it's the first week. Teachers are probably just trying to get announcement schedules worked out. You have to understand our military kids have traveled abroad and to different states and schools. Not saying the Pledge of Allegiance in schools seemed unpatriotic. The girls asked their teachers why the school doesn't recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and they got different replies. From the JROTC drill instructor, he said he helped create a video to assist the teachers with the pledge and said he would look into it. Another teacher replied that it was said during academy class, which is in the middle of the day. The rest of the teachers says we've never done it. The girls proceeded to ask friends who attended Goose Creek High School in previous years, and they were told that they never heard the pledge being recited at school. The girls asked friends from Stratford High Schools if they've said the Pledge of Allegiance and were told yes in the morning. At the opening house meeting on September 3rd, I asked one of the teachers what the school policy on reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and she replied that they do not say it. I also called today just to confirm if they said the Pledge of Allegiance, and the secretary said, no, we do not say the Pledge of Allegiance. To this day, our daughters, of course, do not hear the Pledge of Allegiance in school. You may think I'm overreacting, but no, I'm just a simple patriotic mom. Our Senator Tim Scott is making the monthly rounds to schools of this state because he, like everybody in this room, believes our kids are the future of a great nation. And as we remember 9/11 and see the current events happening in our countries, I'd like to think simply reciting the Pledge of Allegiance is a great reminder to the Goose Creek students that they belong to a great nation. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. We certainly appreciate your comments, and we'll have someone get in contact with you regarding that issue at Goose Creek High School with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Wilson, I believe I have your permission. You're going to meet with us prior to executive session? Yes. All right, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. Of course, we have federal laws we must comply with, and we want to make sure that we do that. So thank you, Ms. Wilson. Next up is Jeff Ruhr. He is from Summerville, South Carolina. He wants to discuss legal expenses. Mr. Ruhr, the microphone's yours, sir.
Good evening, Superintendent Thompson, Chairman Murray, board members. I didn't realize Mr. Hardesty was going to address the expending of legal fees for Ms. Kovach, who now has a second indictment. So I'll make this short, but I too think this board needs to reconsider this money they're spending to support legal fees for somebody that has 2 criminal indictments against them when this money belongs in the classroom. And the other thing I'll mention, this was brought up, I believe, the last meeting. I was the first one here and turned in my card. You're supposed to be first turned in, first speak, and you did it in the exact opposite again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ruhr. Appreciate you being here this evening. Next up is Jennifer Nordby Spina. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I'm going to ask you if I didn't. I'll repeat it. And you would like to discuss, and you're of Daniel Island, and you would like to discuss an issue with the school bus. I'd like to pronounce your name correctly. Did I? How do you pronounce your last name?
Jennifer Nordby Spina.
All right, thank you, Ms.
You
Spina.
did it perfectly.
The microphone
You're
is
one of the
sure.
few that do.
Oh, good.
So good evening, everybody, members of the board. So I am the mom of 2 boys at Daniel Island School, 5th and 3rd grade, and I'm also a pediatrician in the community. And I want to talk about the school bus situation because it seems very different this year compared to prior years that my boys have taken the bus. We take bus number 15. Basically, it takes care of most of Daniel Island. Doesn't take care of Shell Ring, but Daniel Island proper. Oftentimes, my boys arrive late to school or sort of just as the late bell rings. That's one thing. More importantly, I'm really worried about the coming home situation. School dismisses at 2:50. The boys wait with the other kids of bus 15 in the school till 3:30. So for 40 minutes, they're sitting in the gym or in the hallway when the volleyball team kicks them out of the gym of the school. During that time, they're not allowed to eat a snack. They're allowed to do homework, but they find it impossible. It's so loud and just so crowded and disruptive. I've even sent earplugs for them to wear, and it's just to no avail, and they have to do their work on their lap, and it's really kind of a mess. And once they get on the bus, it still takes another 50 to 60 minutes to get home. So they're getting home an hour and 40 minutes after school dismisses. And this is just Daniel Island. I mean, we live less than 4 miles from the school. So yes, we're grateful to even have a bus for sure. But last year they used to get home at 3:40, and now it's 4:30. You know, much of last year we had them participate in the after-school karate program because they were very interested in doing karate and they could do their homework there, etc. We decided to not have them do that this year and didn't enroll them in the program and decided to have them come home directly because we thought they'd have more quality homework time and more quantity of homework time, and also that they might be able to participate in more activities than just karate. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case with them getting home so late. So I'm really concerned. I think it's unacceptable. I've spoken with the bus people, as I was supposed to, several times, probably 4 or 5 times over the course of the school year so far. I feel like she's trying to do what she can. She's taken a couple of stops off our bus driver's prior route because she comes from Cainhoy School to Daniel Island. And she's just so late just because she has so many kids to drop off at Cainhoy. But even taking off a couple of those Cainhoy stops just hasn't really helped much. It's maybe cut down 10 minutes or so. So I'm just really hoping that something can be done. It seems like really the growth of Daniel Island hasn't been accounted for with our bus staffing and situation.
Thank you for your comments, Dr. Spina, regarding the bus issues. Dr. Thompson will be getting in contact. I've received a few concerns from parents this year about buses, and are we running short on buses? Are we having maintenance issues? Can you give us a little bit of insight into why it is different this year?
Well, our population has grown, and
Sure.
we're provided buses from the State Department of South Carolina, and we have to petition extra buses, and it doesn't seem that the buses keep up with the growth that we're experiencing in Berkeley County. And if we have a bus, that bus runs normally 3 routes. It runs an elementary route, a middle school route, and a high school route. That's not the typical route because of Daniel Island and Cainhoy and a high school in proximity, but you are correct. We do, Cainhoy and Daniel Island do share buses, and some of those buses even go over to a high school route at Hanahan, so you can imagine. And so we need more buses, and I think we had a speaker last week at our board meeting, encouraging folks to call our state legislators and ask them to adequately fund the bus program. That our buses, in an average bus, I see Mr. Fleming, a new bus for us is 12 or 13 years old, and that's a problem. So if we can get more buses, we can do our best to get more drivers to add additional routes, but we're relying on the state for those additional buses. So.
Okay, so are you suggesting then that what I can do is just contact my state legislator?
Well, once you let, and I'll speak, if you, I don't know if you spoke with Mr. Fleming or not, our transportation director. So
No, I'm sorry, I spoke with Debbie Johnson, who was the, director of our.
So let us take
route.
another look at it, of
Okay.
course, just like we would do anytime someone calls our office, and we'll
Sure.
see where we are. And I know that he daily works with the state transportation department trying to get additional buses for more routes. And it's a challenge, though, across the district. And I don't know if you read in the paper this morning, Dorchester County was experiencing similar problems, and they outsourced their transportation department. They don't have enough bus drivers. So transportation seems to continue to be a statewide issue, but we'll look at your situation individually.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spina. Appreciate you being with us this evening. And as our speaker so eloquently stated 2 weeks ago, we would ask that all of you contact your state legislators. They created a law to replace these buses on a regular cycle, but they do not comply with their own law. So any assistance that you could provide us would be tremendous. Thank you so much for all of our speakers this evening. We'll now move to agenda item number 6, Deputy Superintendent Franchini. Mr. Franchini has an item for information this evening entitled Applied Behavior Analysis. Mr. Franchini?
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Thompson, members of the board, I'd like to ask Kelly Wolf, our Director of Special Services, to come forward to give the board an update on applied behavior analysis for the school district.
Good evening, Chairman Murray, Superintendent Thompson, and board members. It is of great pleasure to be able to present to you a very effective program in which we implemented last year in special services called Applied Behavioral Analysis. What I want to start with is our logo in special services, because a lot of folks question, what do we do in special services? Katie, will you flip? So within the logo, what you will see is we utilized an oak tree, and 3 years ago, we had 3 implementations that we put in place. The first one was just called problem solving, which now on the general ed side is basically PLC work. We also put in our frameworks, which aligned our specially designed instruction to what was going on within the general curriculum. And most importantly, on the left-hand side of the tree, we put in structured teaching environments, because we knew that we had a changing population within special education, that we were really struggling with kids coming in, being able to go into a learning environment, to know rules, to sit, to then be able to be successful, to be engaged in the learning process. So what we did was we stepped back and really had to evaluate from a department how we were providing support to our teachers, because we did know that our population, especially for students with autism, was increasing fourfold. In 2008, in the district, we had 112 students with autism. By 2013, with our child count, we had 599. So we really were getting into a situation where we needed to work with our teachers in a different model to be able to support them, to build capacity with them. Prior, typically what would happen, a principal would call our office to say, I'm really having difficulty with a child, can you come in, provide a coordinator to come work with our teacher. We would come in, we'd fix the problem, we'd come back out, and then a couple months later we would be back in the same situation, because we really didn't provide the support that teacher needed to learn to be able to generalize the skills to other students that were coming in. So we stepped back and we put in place a research-based model where we were doing shoulder-to-shoulder coaching paired with performance feedback to teachers to build capacity. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that worked with our ABA implementation, and then the vision that we have for every teacher in the district to build their skills to be able to work with any child, whether it be a child with autism or a child with any behavioral difficulties, so that we can get them successful. So this just shows where we started with applied behavioral analysis, but those same principles that are research-based go into structured teaching environments for all teachers and then drives back into our vision. So what is structured teaching strategies? Basically, they're just supports that help teachers to be able to manage that classroom environment, and they're supports that set students up for academic and social success. At the heart of structured teaching principles is predictability. It is being absolutely concise and predictable in which we are presenting to children. Real life example, when I go home, I have to put my keys in the same location every day. If I don't the next morning, it's probably not going to be a really good morning. If you think about, we all need structure when you go to church. If somebody sits in your place in church, sometimes it's not a real good thing. And I think about our director meeting. We even have non-established rules for where people sit. It's the same principles, and our children need predictability. They need that consistency, and that's what ABA and structured teaching principles do. We teach teachers how to devise environments within that fashion. And then it pairs positive reinforcement on the backside and very focused instruction, and that's really what leads to having a highly successful environment. So with applied behavioral analysis, it really was designed for students with autism, but what we do know that it works for all children. So we started to expand our program out 3 years ago. When I came in, we were actually outsourcing to our ABA therapists, to 22 of them across the county. But we weren't really teaching our teachers those same principles to implement within the classroom. So we contracted with, you're going to hear about Zara Haji, we contracted with her as our autism consultant, and we started building an autism team. I will tell you, we have a top-notch autism team within our district that is recognized throughout the state. Right now, we'll talk about our board-certified folks, but basically we really provide controlled positive reinforcement. So we utilize what's called controlled antecedent behavior consequence cycles. Real life example, when your cell phone rings, what's the first thing that you do? You look down to see who's calling you, and then you make a determination, am I going to accept the call or am I going to decline the call? So Dr. Thompson's calling me, and I decide, I don't want to accept that one today. Not a good consequence that's going to come on the back end of it. But it's controlled, and we do that. We do that naturally as adults, but what we have to do is teach our teachers on how to provide academic and social tasks in a very controlled environment just like that, where then we're giving positive reinforcement for accepting the call, and then we're giving correction really quickly if they decide to decline the call. That's at the heart of what ABA really is about. So this is how we did it. We did step-by-step training with board-certified ABA specialists. Right now, we started with one board-certified ABA specialist in the county. Under our autism specialist, we now have 3. We have built capacity with our teachers to be able to take the same principles with ABA, apply them to their classrooms. So now we're only down to 5 ABA line therapists across the county. So we reduced from 22 to 5, built capacity within the system. And then we also put scored performance feedback for our teachers, and then we utilized a tool called Catalyst, where teachers were collecting data right there on their phone. It graphs it for them, where then we can share that with our parents, other teachers, and principals. When we started, initially our teachers last year at the beginning of the year scored at approximately 50% in terms of just knowing what ABA principles were. By the 5th rating, they jumped all the way up to 80%, and by the 10th, they were all the way up to 95%. We just did a universal screener with all of those teachers to see where their retention levels were for this year, and they all jumped 8 points across the board. So they're retaining the skills in which we have given them. So some evidence of capacity building.
Just like how students...
Oops, sorry.
Just like how students learn through modeling and examples and the routine and structure, I've also learned from Miss Courtney, and it's been an awesome experience in working with her.
We've gotten rave reviews from the ladies that have come in to work with our staff members with the ABE. A few students that were having some serious problems have now settled down.
To know my student pattern. I've been interaction going on. And I think they pick up on some of that stuff just as well. There's so much positive reinforcement that's given. And, you know, not only do the children benefit, I think the teachers benefit as well. They get to hear somebody modeling the kinds of things that we need to say.
It's just been amazing. And I think from a teaching standpoint, the support that I've received from Zara, she is in my room once a week, every week, and it is amazing because she not only models for me, when I do a good job, she's like, you did it! So that's awesome.
We really appreciate our ABA therapists that come in. They have taught our teachers different strategies to change students' behavior and how to deal and cope with certain behaviors. And now we've got to where our teachers are using those same strategies and embedding them into their instruction during the day.
Just given the tools that we need, the teachers are using them, and we're seeing great successes.
So currently we're in 21 schools. We have trained 61 teachers, and we have provided direct ABA coaching to 105 students. What we know is that when we do mastery teaching and we devise the environment, we can get kids to be successful. And I think that's really what the key and the heart of this is. So it is about the services in which we're providing with ABA, but it also is about how we are devising environments for students to be successful. At the end of the year last year, we had 97% of our students with autism that were receiving ABA were responding to the treatment, and that's a pretty high success rate. And we are able to then move children from more restrictive environments to least restrictive environments for them truly to be successful, and that's truly how we get our graduation rates up. So in terms of some of the student successes.
It's really changed the outcomes of their growth. You know, we really see improvements from day to day, really, and across all areas, socially, communication, and us being able to embed it and getting the coaching to embed it has really benefited not just our teaching and our practice, but just our kids and everywhere we go.
We get opportunities to use the practices when I'm doing a whole group activity. If my student or the student that I work with for doing the ABA, or even another one of my students that I don't work with in a specific ABA setting, they are all benefiting from the practice itself and from the coaching that I've been given.
If there's one thing that I can tell you about ABA is that it's a powerful teaching tool that improves student outcomes by keeping the focus on mastery of the content, which is the purpose.
She tries more. I know the reinforcement is a big factor in her success. One of the main things that we're working on are sight words, and Jordan has made tremendous progress with the sight words, and we'll flip from one word to the next. And if she gets the word, it's that immediate, I did it! And you can see it all over her face. She's so excited.
The ABA therapy, the difference is night and day. It is amazing to see what has worked so well with this particular child that I'm speaking about. He has gone from out of control to very much in control. He appears happy, he appears more settled, and when I've been able to observe, I notice he's able to actually engage in the content that they're.
So our next steps is to take over-the-shoulder coaching with performance feedback and continue to replicate it. I will say that we were amazed on our August in-service day. We were doing a general session, and actually Kathy Mahoney was there doing a presentation, and we had another presentation going for ABA and decided to let the folks go ahead and leave to go to the ABA presentation, and half of our elementary teachers stood up and left the room to go to the ABA training. And it was interesting because Dustin said to me, Kelly, I'm so sorry. And I said, no, we're going to get them seats, because this presentation doesn't even begin to show you the electricity that has generated across the county for teachers to say, I want that training. That training will help me. I don't have students with autism, but I know that's going to help me with another student that I have within my classroom. Our training right now, we've got principals that called today that said, for early release, I really would like my related arts teachers to come to that training. I have 8th grade teachers that I really need to be in that training. So we started it from a special education initiative, but it would be my hope and my vision that we have every teacher across the county that is trained in the techniques of ABA, not only our special ed teachers, but our general education teachers, so that we are really equipping them to deal with the changing population in which is coming to us, because it is going to continue to change. Within my 26 years, I've seen it dramatically change, especially within the past 3 years. I would be remiss of the implementation if I did not at least recognize Zara Haji. She is here. If you will please stand. She was the person who really, when I told her I had a vision and this is what I wanted to do 2 years ago in the district, she said, I'll sign up. Can I come work for Berkeley County? So we brought her on board. Dustin is our coordinator who is over our ABA implementation, and then we have all of our coordinators here from special ed. If you will please stand. I will tell you that we have an extremely hardworking team, but this implementation has put us over the board, and I think it has truly benefited our teachers, and you will see the continued across every initiative in our department, shoulder-to-shoulder coaching with performance feedback so we can get capacity. Any questions?
Thank you very much. We appreciate Haji, Dustin, all of our coordinators, the work of soon-to-be Dr. Wolf. Looking forward to that
I'm working on it.
wonderful day I'm looking forward to. Do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Wolf regarding the ABA program? Ms. Schwabe?
I just wanted to make a comment. I've had the opportunity to work with Kelly and her staff, and I'm so glad all of you are here. You do a fabulous job. When I look at all this information, this is what teacher support looks like, and when teachers are supported, good things happen for children. And special education is an area that is very, very difficult, and we have a very difficult time getting educators to move into that field and keep them there because it's so hard. So the coaching pieces of it and all that support, thank you so much, because we need to retain those teachers in our classrooms so they can continue to grow and recruit more of them along the way. So thank you.
Well said. Any further comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. Next up is Agenda Item 7, Financial Services. Tonight, Mr. Thomas has 2 items for action. The first is Agenda Item 7A, RFP 424, and that is for GIS, GPS zoning, and bus routing for bus transportation. And 7B, RFP 426, and that request for proposal is for refrigerant. Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Thompson, we have the 2 items for action today. The first is RFP 424 for the GIS, GPS zoning for bus transportation. You should have your attachments on your at your station. We would like for you to approve the bid to Education Logistics, Inc. for initial cost of $37,323.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. You've received the recommendation from Financial Services. Do I have a motion and a second regarding Agenda Item 7A?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve RFP 424-1415 for GIS, GPS zoning, and bus routing for bus transportation and education logistics, Inc., for an initial cost of $37,323 as presented by Mr. Thomas in Finance Agenda Item 7A.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. I'll give it to you.
Is that Ms. Lee?
You're fighting over second.
Mr. Cooper has made a motion. I'll read that for the record. That motion has been seconded by Ms. Lee. Prior to calling the question, that motion again reads to approve RFP 424 for GIS, GPS zoning, and bus routing for bus transportation to Education Logistics Incorporated for an initial cost of $37,323 as presented by Mr. Thomas in Finance Agenda 7A. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion carries unanimously. Mr. Thomas, Agenda Item 7A has been approved.
Thank you. Second item is RFP 426 for refrigerant. We would ask for your approval to award this bid to C.C. Dixon and Company for an indefinite delivery contract through the life of the term. There's no initial cost yet, but it'll be as we need it for HVAC and freezers and that sort of thing. So.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. You've received the administration's recommendation. Do I have a motion and a second for agenda item 7B?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve motion to approve RFP 426 for the 2014-2015 year for refrigerant to C.C. Dickerson Company for an indefinite delivery contract as presented by Mr. Thomas in agenda item 7B.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Obie has made a motion. I'll read that here shortly for the record. That motion has been seconded by Dr. Etheridge. Do we have any discussion regarding the motion?
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Obie.
Have we done business with C.C. Dickerson?
They have a contract before, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Does that conclude your remarks? All right. We'll call the question. Hearing no further comments or questions. A motion has been made by Mr. Obie. That motion was seconded by Dr. Etheridge to approve request for proposal 426 for the 2014-2015 year for refrigerant to C.C. Dixon Company for an indefinite delivery contract as presented by Mr. Thomas in Finance Agenda Item 7B. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Thomas, both agenda items 7A and 7B have been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now moving on to agenda item number 8, administration and facilities. Tonight, we have an item for information entitled Capital Improvements for 2014-2015. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Chairman Murray, Dr. Thompson, members of the board. At this time, I'd like to ask Connie Myers to come forward and give our capital improvements for 2014-2015.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Thompson, and members of the board. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the capital improvements program for the 2014-15 school year. The focus of our capital improvement program is to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for the students and staff, and to be fiscally responsible in using the funding wisely and efficiently. So let's get started. How did we identify the projects? We identified projects in 3 ways. First, we performed a facilities assessment and queried the work order system for repeated repairs so we could determine the condition of each of the facility systems and determine if the system's at the end of its useful life. Secondly, the principals provided a list of their 3 highest priority projects. Thirdly, we reviewed the historical cost data on the district-wide facilities and technology contracts to see what we spent last year. We use these contracts to respond to unforeseen things that break and stop working, as well as for scheduled maintenance. These contracts include HVAC systems, flooring, roofing, operable walls, electrical equipment, plumbing replacement, boiler replacement, refinishing gym floors, and also technology items such as cameras and PA systems. This isn't all of them, but it's a good share of them. What is a facilities assessment? For several months, each shop supervisor met with his lead technicians and evaluated the systems they work on every week. As you know, we have very high retention in the facilities department, and many of these technicians have been working on Berkeley County School District systems for 20-plus years. They know what they're looking at. They thoughtfully reviewed each system, school by school, and assigned a condition to each system, either at red, yellow, or green, where red denotes systems that need to be replaced within the first year, yellow denotes systems that need to be replaced within 2 and 4 years, and green means the system is good for 5 years and beyond. The supervisors then estimated costs for projects identified for each of the red and yellow codes. It should be noted that when we can do the work with our in-house workforce, we receive the biggest bang for the dollars. Unfortunately, OSF has some restrictions on how we use our in-house workforce, where the scope of work must be, quote, work of a routine maintenance nature, quote, or, quote, projects of sufficiently limited scope. So we have to stay within those criteria when we do in-house work. Here's the systems we assessed: building envelope, roofing, HVAC, electrical systems, fire alarm, lighting, plumbing, painting, boilers and hot water heaters, elevator, pavement, floors, kitchen equipment, outside lighting, and athletic fields. This slide shows the results of the facilities assessment. Not all schools would fit on one page, so there's 2 pages here. I know this information is hard to read, but we have a lot of schools and a whole lot of systems. Along the left-hand side, each row represents a school. The first column is the school name, next column is the total square foot of the school, and the third column gives the time frame in which the school was built. Many of our schools have had additions added or renovations done, and that is why there's a range of years. The rest of the columns across the top of the page list the various systems evaluated. You can see the building envelope, roofing, HVAC, etc. across the top. I would also like to draw attention to some notes embedded in some of the red items. For example, the red box is under the athletic field. There's a note that says irrigation, and this means that the lack of irrigation in the baseball, softball fields is why this box is red. Also for 3 schools, Westview Elementary School, Westview Middle School, and Sedgefield Middle School, a note was added that says humid. What this means is the HVAC system is in place and works, but during those high temperature, high humidity days, we have humidity control problems which we constantly struggle with. In order to put it in perspective, we experienced about 3 months of hot, humid weather while school is occupied. The other 6 months, or 75% of the time, the HVAC system's working fine. Replacing HVAC systems is very costly. For example, we recently received an estimate of $2 million for construction costs to replace the systems at Westview Elementary and Middle School. Under the capital improvement budget, this would take the bulk of the funding, so we really need to defer this item at this time. This chart shows the remaining schools. As you can see, there's another note in the red item that says bond. This means that bond funds have been allocated to correct this condition. For example, Whitesville Elementary School's roof. We have a minor renovation bond project to do a roof replacement for that school. So once that project's done, we can go ahead and turn that to a green box. What does the facilities assessments tell us? Well, the red and yellow colors tell us that the systems are in bad shape and need to be replaced or upgraded. That way we can focus our resources on the systems in the worst condition. The supervisors and technicians all know that I was going to brief you with this chart, so they took their best efforts to provide accurate information. It also should be noted that since many schools have had additions built at different times, each color block is an average condition and may contain some red and green items that average to a yellow. In one of the following slides, we'll talk about this more. Due to the age and system conditions, the most red and yellow systems, we really need to start planning for some school-wide renovations at Sedgefield Intermediate, Sangaree Elementary, and Sangaree Intermediate School, as well as Devon Forest Elementary School. Although this item did not make the slide, we can also use this information as a foundation to put together a 10-year capital improvement plan, which my new boss keeps nagging me about. It is something we need to try to develop in the near future, and now that we have the framework for it, we can go ahead and get that started, and now that the summer crunch is over, we've got some time to work on that. Taking the facilities assessments and then putting the red and yellow projects in a priority order, a list of the most critical items are generated that totaled $1 million. Each row represents a project with the school code, a description, and an estimated cost. In the next few slides, we will see some examples of these projects. Before we do that, let me just add, since capital improvement funding is limited, the superintendent looked for some other funding sources and found that there's some QZAB money available. So we're going to complete the upgrade of the fire alarm system at Stratford High School main building and Marrington Elementary School by the QZAB fund. So this is an added bonus to the program this year. Here's an example of one of the projects we'll be doing, H.E. Bonner exterior doors. This is a yellow project on the chart under the category of building envelope, where the exterior doors of H.E. Barnard need to be replaced. This is work that our in-house maintenance crews have completed well at other schools and can easily fit into their workload. Here's an example of another project shown in yellow on the chart for plumbing. It is work that our in-house maintenance crews can easily fit into their workload also. Stratford High School has group toilets that have not been renovated in over 30 years, and we need to begin replacing the old plumbing fixtures. Parts are no longer manufactured for some of the hand-washing sinks that you can kind of see on the left-hand side. We will take the work as far as we can go with the funding that we have allocated. At Berkeley High School, there are exposed parapet walls that are not cladded, and the existing coating is starting to fail, which is allowing moisture into the building. We need to go back and clad these parapets with metal panels, which is the most cost-effective solution. We completed a similar project at Stratford High School's gym area, and it is working well. Additionally, some existing parapet areas at Berkeley High School that do have metal cladding also are working well and not leaking. Here's an example of another project shown in red on the chart for Cross Elementary School. There are many pieces of HVAC equipment and controls that have passed their useful life, and we need to start systematically replacing the equipment. Once again, this is work that our in-house workforce excels at, and we get the greatest bang to continue to do these projects in that manner. We've identified the most critical areas at Cross, being the media center and some of the classrooms, so that's where we're going to start. This next slide shows the principal's highest priority project. We have a project for each school. Once again, we have so many schools, we had to put these projects on 2 slides. Each road has the school code, the description of the project, and the estimated cost. Here's the rest of the principal identified facilities projects, and as you can see, the total cost of these projects is $1,024,200. Some examples of these projects will be shown on the next slides. The existing locker rooms at Cainhoy Elementary Middle School are in dire need of renovation. Here are some before pictures. Fixtures are in bad shape or missing. Painting is peeling. Windows leak. Holes in floors. Lighting improvements are needed. HVAC and exhaust systems need to be renovated, et cetera, et cetera. I want to take a minute to brag on our facilities department. They have done an excellent job at renovating group toilets. I don't know if you've looked at the work at College Park Elementary or Cainhoy Elementary Middle School, or even the new restroom trailers they just complete. This will be another project we'll get the biggest bang for our dollars, and we'll do a terrific job on these. Here's an example from Boulder Bluff Elementary School, where they have requested that the existing tile floors in the 2nd and 3rd grade, which are in bad shape, be replaced. Kind of a boring one, but work that we got to get done. For this next project, the principal has requested to add a screen wall at the front of the cafeteria door where the trash is stored. She further noted that the loading dock is unsightly and the parking area creates a traffic jam. The school has closed the parking lots with cones. However, a brick wall would have a curb appeal and create a safer storefront look to the school. Berkeley Middle School has requested a project to connect the sidewalk from the bus loop to the 200 hallway. Also noted is that this existing condition is a difficult transition for the wheelchair students. The drainage grate will need to be relocated and the subgrade prepared so a new sidewalk can be poured in this area. At the beginning of the presentation, we talked about the 3 ways in which we identified projects for the capital improvement programs. The 3rd way is the district-wide contracts for emergency and recurring work. These contracts involve both facilities and technology items and have been funded at various levels over the years. We worked with the technology department and we have projected amounts needed for this year. It should be noted that this money not only supports the schools, but also supports the facilities within the district, such as transportation, food service, MenRiv, district office, this room, airport, and the Oakley shops. The total budget for the district-wide contracts for emergency recurring work is $1.4 million this year. So in summary, We have $3.4 million to spend on capital improvement projects. Based on the facilities assessment, we're going to spend $1 million, but we do have about $6,259,452 worth of maintenance work that needs to be done, and we're going to need to defer the remaining. The principal's number one priority projects all added up to $1 million, and the district-wide maintenance and repair contracts for facilities and technology is at 1.4. So those three numbers add up to the 3.4 million budget we have for the capital improvements program. Time for questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Myers. A quick compliment. I found your presentation to be easy to follow, and your explanations are easy to understand, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
With that said, do we have any questions or comments from Ms. Myers? There's a lot of information here to consider. Ms. Moore?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't see anything about the outdoor restrooms. Does that come under your presentation?
The outdoor restrooms
Yes.
at the track? Or?
I was told that they have some outdoor restroom. I'm not sure at which of the schools, but
Okay.
are you
I'm not familiar with that.
building some outdoor restroom at some of the schools?
Well, we put trailers in for outdoor
For
restrooms.
the trailers?
Yes, yes.
Or in the restroom outside?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
We put 5 classroom trailers at Cane Bay Elementary School. I have 4 classroom trailers and 1 restroom facilities. OSF changed the requirements anytime. So anytime you add a trailer to a school, you now have to add a restroom trailer. So we have added restroom trailers for any temporary trailers we put in. We put in 13 trailers this summer, and 4 different locations. So we have 4 different restrooms. We also added restroom trailers.
Dr. Epp?
Thank you. Ms. Myers, I have always been amazed at what maintenance can do for our district with the money they get. Maintenance, people in maintenance know I've always appreciated them and really do not know how they accomplish what they get done. How is your budget determined? How can we get more than $3.4 million into keeping this district running? You keep looking this direction.
I'll spend it if...
That's, we take our capital improvements budget through our 8% annual installments, and I think 3 or 4 years ago, we were at like $1.7 million annually, and fortunately, we've been able to stretch that because of the needs of the district to 3.4 this year. So might not always can have 3.4, but this year we were able to get that amount. We usually, last 2 years, I think we budgeted at 2.5.
Is there any other source other than the 8%?
Well, we had the QZAB dollars, the bond that we worked on a lot of energy projects and technology projects, and addressed a lot of the fire alarm issues. Of course, we addressed a lot of our needs through the referendum that our voters approved. And one thing that, Connie, the budget for annual maintenance, if you notice, like the roofing dollars are in there, were extended so we can address some of those red or yellow areas that weren't listed, but through that budget that was designated for roofing and HVAC work. When we start talking about renovating Devon Forest and the Sangaree schools, that's going to be pretty serious dollars, which we're not going to be able to cover with $2 or $3 million a year. So we just wanted to, those buildings are getting to be 30 years old now. You might think them as new facilities, but the HVAC system is wearing out, the roof is wearing out, so we're going to have start thinking long term as we're building these new schools. We still got to maintain our existing facilities, so we're going to have to find more money.
Okay. Where?
I don't have the answer to that question tonight, so we'll work to keep trying to extend that capital improvement budget. We've been fortunate enough to go up a little bit each year, and we'll see if we can continue to raise the number.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer.
And home growth will help as well.
Beg your pardon?
The assessment that goes up for home growth will help in upcoming years, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do get capital money on rooftops, not operating money, so more homes, as Mr. Thomas is describing.
All right, any further questions or comments on this information? Ms. Lee?
For the projects that our maintenance department can't handle, are we looking at some of the contractors that are working on our larger projects?
What we're probably going to do, I think we need to spread the wealth out through the procurement requirements. So we did in the district-wide have some architect and AE fees set aside. So we basically have to do a design and get it through OSF first before we can construct it. So what I need to do is get you a real good construction estimate first so you know how much money that you can allocate me next year for those. So we do have money, and we'll take that as far as we can this year.
Yeah, and those numbers are estimates to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And I would say they're all hard numbers.
Exactly.
Based on the expertise that we have, most of those estimates are in-house.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Ms. Lee, does that conclude your remarks? Mr. Cookman?
Yeah, I'd just like to, again, congratulate everybody for maintenance department. I know how much work they did over the summer, and
yes.
what they do is outstanding. And I would also go on to support, if not 10 years, at least a 5-year plan. We've got to have that, because traditionally what I've seen in the past around here is every year we kind of bring it all back up.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting from scratch again. But we're never going to get these big HVAC projects or these big roofing projects done if we're not working them into some sort of a plan and watching for QZAB money and other things as they come along to keep our arms around how big this problem is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're fortunate right now to be able to do what we can do, but I think a living 5-year document that just constantly, and I really like the red, yellow, green. I think that's the best interpretation by school we've ever had to be able to go through. We've always gotten all these spreadsheets, and most of it you couldn't really tell if it was a true maintenance need or was it principal wish list stuff. So again, the way that you've broken it up, I commend you. Just keep it as an ongoing program that we can all get accustomed to.
Okay. We'll try to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, any other questions or comments? My compliments again on a very effective presentation. Thank you, Ms. Myers. All right, now we'll move on to agenda item number 9, entitled Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And tonight, at the request of the board, we're going to try something different, and we're going to hear from our teachers. And I'd invite Stephanie Wallace from Teacher Forum to come to the podium and give us a Teacher Forum report. Also, Lauren Reeder is going to assist.
Good evening, Chairman Murray, Dr. Thompson, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here on behalf of Teacher Forum to give you a brief update on our purpose and direction for this year. Our teacher leaders have worked extremely hard over the past few months at our summer retreat and our first meetings of the year to really redefine, reconfirm, and refresh our purpose and direction while honoring the tradition and the outstanding work of Forum in the past. As chair, I'm given the opportunity to design a logo for the year, and I really wanted something that would represent our entire team. The quote that you see, and I have to thank Michael Petrie for making this image for me, the quote that you see was shared with us at the instructional fair last year, and it kind of stuck with me ever since. Many times, as teacher leaders or teachers of the year from our school, people say to us, oh, so now you have to do Teacher Forum and you have to do all these extra things. And for us, we wanted to shift that mindset. It's not a have to, it's a get to. We get to help affect positive change in our district, and we get to support our teachers and our students. So I also asked each member to choose one word based on John Gordon's book, One Word That Will Change Your Life. Just a word that would inspire each of our teacher leaders to be their best and to bring out the best in our team. So at the bottom of our logo, kind of there in our endless immensity of the sea, we have all of the words that represent our team and those words that are going to inspire us. So we really wanted to just share with you tonight our new vision that we have come together as a team to create. This has been a lengthy process, but I think it has been very beneficial for all of us in terms of learning more about strategic planning, and there again, really making sure that our vision represents our current group of teacher leaders. So in this vision, the colors that you see coming out with communication, curriculum and assessment, and PLCs, all of the colors represent our different committees that we have this year on the forum. So being a non-instructional fair year, this is our issues year. So Lauren and I created a needs assessment early in the summer to send to our forum members so that we could really see what they were most interested in and what they felt we really needed to focus on as a forum. So our 3 issues are curriculum and assessment, and our technology and morale and climate. Then we always have our standing committees of communication, political action and advocacy, recruitment and retention, and our special events. But it really was a great process for all of us to come together and put forth new ideas and new direction that each of these committees could really do, instead of, again, just stepping in and being assigned the tasks that have been done in the past. So I also want to point out that with our political action, all of these committees have been working extremely hard on their action plans and are underway with their short-term goals, and we look forward to sharing more about each of those with you in the future. But our Political Action and Advocacy Committee is in the planning stages of planning some panel discussions with our school board candidates for our districts that are up, and so we will be sure to communicate that information as soon as we have dates and locations finalized. I hope as you look at this vision that you will see that we are very closely aligned with district areas of focus, and so we think that it's very exciting that, again, we continue to strengthen those relationships and come together for a united front to really affect change and support our teachers and our students. And so we're just very excited about the direction that we are moving. Another thing that we have really talked about is that we feel that Forum has came to a place where it seems like a limited club, so to speak, for Teachers of the Year. And that is not how we intend it to be. We want it to be for teacher leaders and those who want to grow as leaders, those who want to make a commitment to really to step up and to make a difference. So we are currently looking for ways to recruit other teachers and make sure that that message is out there, that it is not limited to just our Teachers of the Year. Having the Teachers of the Year from every school helps ensure that we have representatives from every school, but we don't want to limit it to that, and we would like to see it go beyond. And at this time, I would like to recognize a few of my fellow forum members who are here with me. So Lauren, Jessica, Heather, if you guys would stand up, please, for coming out on this night and supporting us. And I have to say, even Lauren and Jessica had to slide in late because they were at Berkeley Elementary at a leadership advisory meeting, helping to give feedback. So, I just am so proud to work alongside such passionate and dedicated teachers. And our forum continues to be a model for the state. I heard from the very first year I was in Berkeley County that we have a forum that is a model, and it continues to be that way. In fact, I was recently contacted by our current State Teacher of the Year, Jennifer Ainsworth, to present and work with District Teachers of the Year across the state this year during our state forum events to really help them establish, refresh, and strengthen their own forums through strategic planning and district collaboration. One thing I learned over the course of this past year at State Forum, and I'm so excited for Lauren to have this opportunity this year, was how many districts have forums, but they do not have the relationships with district administrators, and just it's not that united front. And so I want to thank Dr. O'Gorman, Dr. Thompson, Mr. Davis, and all of the district administrators for always bringing us to the table to have those important conversations and for soliciting our feedback. That really means a lot, and we appreciate that. And in fact, our teacher advisory group is looking forward to meeting with Dr. Thompson next week. So I'm just personally very excited to help support these other districts and help forums grow, not only in Berkeley County but beyond. But during that process, I'm excited to showcase all of the amazing teacher leaders and things that we have going on in Berkeley County. So just a brief update from Teacher Forum. Next one. Any questions?
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Ms. Wallace, Ms. Reeder, as well as all of our members of the Teacher Forum. Excellent presentation. Do we have any questions tonight for Teacher Forum or comments?
Oh, just again, just a huge thank you to you and all of the teachers. I think it always bears repeating that you know, there is a way of just piling work on those who stick their heads up for more leadership opportunities. And I will also always be grateful that all of you take this bigger view of the district. And I know how difficult that can be, but we need it, and it's necessary. It's not fluff. It's a necessity to really improve things for children. So thank you all, and thank the others too for work so hard this summer, and keep up the great work and keep us informed on how we can support what you're doing.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Wallace, Ms. Reeder, thank you. We appreciate all the work of the Teacher Forum. Dr. Thompson.
Right, and before I go to the next slide, I would like to thank our teachers and Teacher Forum. It's just amazing the things that our teachers are doing in our classroom, and we're starting to see some serious results with student achievement, and we're getting ready to don't want to let the secret out too soon, but we're getting ready to get some very encouraging results in regards to student achievement. So I look forward to sharing that with you in a couple of weeks. If you remember, last year, Jim Reynolds from the State Chamber presenting to us the profile of the graduate. I would just like to take a moment tonight to reemphasize the profile of the graduate. This was produced by the Superintendent's Association from SCASA. We worked closely with the Chamber and Transform South Carolina to create this profile of the graduate. Now, as I share this with the different business leaders around the community, we seem to put a lot of attention on the knowledge piece of the profile of the graduate. But what I'm hearing from our business leaders is soft skills are so important. They want workers that can communicate and work well with others, work in a team. So we seem to be assessed, and the accountability from how we measure students focuses on that knowledge piece. But if we're truly going to prepare students to be college and career ready, we have to put just as much emphasis on the world-class skills and the life and career characteristics if we're preparing our students for the real world. So I would just like for any of you that have any influence and that develops accountability for schools, help us put just as much emphasis and grade us on all three components of this and not just the knowledge piece. Of course, our students need to be able to read well and write well, but just as important, they need to be able to collaborate and get along with others. And I look forward to working with our teachers and our business leaders as we figure out how we're going to assess those soft skills as well. So just a reminder, here is the profile of the South Carolina graduate, and we think that this is the type of person that we're producing in Berkeley County schools. Last item. We also need help, and I'm sorry to see our media representative leave, but the DHEC has stated that Friday, September the 19th is the last day for parents to provide our schools with proof of the Tdap vaccination for our 7th grade students. Our efforts to get this completed started last spring, working with our 6th grade students. And all students that are not in compliance, they've been getting phone calls and letters from the school. I sent a personal letter by mail today for those students. We've got a couple hundred left of our 7th grade students that we needed to get in compliance. Our health departments in Monk's Corner and Goose Creek will work with these students. We also have several vendors in the area that can provide the vaccination, but we need to get this done by September 19th for our 7th graders, or it will impact your child's ability to attend public schools in South Carolina. So help us get that message out. It's not our requirement. It's a requirement of DHEC in South Carolina. This is the 2nd year that this has been required. So we don't want children to have to stay at home because of this. So anything that we can do to help families, I encourage you to communicate with your administrators at the school if you're having problems, and we'll try to provide assistance for you for the Tdap vaccination. Thank you, Dr. Murray, members of the board.
All right, thank you, Dr. Thompson. I'm sorry, Ms. Moore had a comment. Go ahead, Ms. Moore, the floor is yours.
Dr. Thompson, I want to find out, were you able to send out a communication to those students about the diploma that some of them did not get? You know, and now they can get it, the exit exam.
Actually, our media did help us with that, and there was an article in the newspaper in regards to the diploma, and it's on our website for those students that did not pass the HSAP exam in previous years. They're now eligible for the diploma as long as they have the 24 units, Carnegie units. So it is on the front page of our web page, and one of our local media outlets ran a story about that to help us, and I actually saw another article in the paper this morning stating the same thing. So
information was sent out.
Yes. So if you know of anyone that's in this case, please have them contact me or the school district, and we'll help with that.
Thank you.
All right, now it's time to move to agenda item number 10, executive session. Tonight's executive session will serve the purposes of hearing an attendance appeal, an expulsion appeal, personnel considerations, contractual matters, and legal briefings. With that said, do I have a motion and a second to move into executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. We have a motion to move into executive session. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. We stand in executive session.